Sắp xong rồi nhiêu tiền?
Dạ, chắc 1 tiếng nữa. Here. So, can you see the screen?
Yes, it looks perfect.
Okay. So, in chapter 4, so we will talk about the accrual accounting concepts. So I'm gonna go into detail. So at first, we talk about the revenue expense recognition risk principle, because sometimes in business, like the finance statement will not always be clear. Sometimes a company might they might sell a product maybe in October, but then the customer will only return the money for them in November. So the question is, in your financial statement, you will write the expense and then the revenue in November or October. So that's why they come into the one conclusion about the revenue and expense recognition principle here, in which the revenue recognized in the current periods, in which the revenue recognition principle require that company recognize revenues in the accounting period in which the performance obligation is satisfied. It means they will record the revenue in the performance period of time, not the time when they receive the cash.
So it could be, so they recognize it, it could be in a period that's earlier than when they actually have the cash.
Yes.
And is it possible it can also be in a time that's later or no? Like if someone prepays something?
Yeah, if someone prepay, no, only in like the performance, when
Okay.
the performance is done, like services, and then they sell a product, and then they will record it in that specific month.
Okay.
Yes, and also for that revenue recognition, we also have the expense recognition. It means that they will match the expenses with the revenue when they perform the product, like how much they expense, they use for the expense, maybe the service, the money that they spend to perform that service. They also need to record that in the same period of time.
Okay.
So
the expense, regardless of when you actually spend the money, it has to be matched to when the revenues, when the performance occurs. Okay.
Okay. So we have the very simple rules that let the expense follow the revenues. So that is.
Okay. Nice.
So we have the accrual versus the cash basis of accounting to explain why we should perform in write the financial statement in the period of performance the services. So we have here, for example, they have the example of this company, the fresh color. They will paint, like they do the services, like the painting for this company, the Bob Pizza Burn, maybe in we take it maybe in October. And then, no, in 2016, but they only received the payment of this company in 2017. So we have the comparison of the accrual basis and the cash basis. The accrual basis is when the time you perform, for example here, even though you receive money in 2017, you still need to write the revenue in 2016 because you performed the performance in 2016. And then we have the expenses here, and the net income of that year is 13,000. But if we follow the cash basis here, you have the net in the expense here, but revenue you don't write here, you write it in 2017, is resolved in the net loss, which is actually is not very accurate for the company. So that's why it's accrual basis accounting is more of a general applied for every company.
Okay.
Yeah.
But people can still use cash basis, right? But
Mm-hmm.
companies usually don't. Is that correct?
No, like they don't use. They just make the comparison here so that you can see. It's not will this will not reflect on the company performance if you use the cash basis. So all the
Hmm.
company will use the accrual basis
Okay.
for their
Wonderful.
performances.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you can see here the cash basis accounting is not accordance with the general accepted accounting principle, the GAAP.
Hmm.
Yes.
Excellent. That's a really nice explanation of that graphic. Thank you.
Yes.
Very clear.
And because of the accrual accounting basis, we need to also understanding some terms here. Like there are different type of adjusting entry. You need to like, even though you have the cash in the next year, you need to also adjust according to the accrual basis. We have some terms like the deferral, the prepaid expense, like the one you have asked. Like the prepaid expense is the expense that paid in cash before they actually used or consumed. Like, and then also the unearned cash, unearned revenue is the cash received before services are performed. Maybe you have the contract with some company to perform the service in 3 months, but you receive all that money in like in the first month. We call like is the unearned revenue.
And
And
those are
then
kept, that's actually a separate entry. You would
yes,
have that as
yes,
there's the earned revenue and the unearned revenue.
yes.
Okay.
We also have the accrual. So we had the accrued revenue, which is the avenues for services performed but not yet received the cash, like the example that we received, we saw earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also accrue expense, the expense incurred but not yet paid in cash or recorded.
Okay.
We go in depth to see. So we have the prepaid expenses here. So the company, like this company actually, like they may purchase something.
So
Of
they purchase something?
yes, of 1,500. So
Okay.
yes. Uh, Let me see. Balance. Oh, supplies. Yes, they purchase something of 1,500.
Okay.
Oh no, they actually purchase something of 2,500 over here
Okay.
in October 5th, and then maybe they purchase something like the paper, or like some, for example, they purchase some paper to do the printing, but on October 5, but that actually they buy a bunch, but within that month, they only use around 1,500 of that the total supplies. So at the end of the month in October 31st, they need to like adjust the number here of 1,500, not actually the 2,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even, yeah, but they may have already paid it.
Yes, they
They
paid
paid
it.
the full
They bought
amount.
all of that, but they
Okay.
use only like maybe the amount, the small amount.
Okay.
That's why they need the adjustment here of
Got it.
1,500. Yes.
Oh, nice.
And then for the insurance is like quite same. Maybe they buy the insurance for the houses for 1 year, and then they need to break it down into like the month. Like for example, this company purchased the insurance of 600, but then each month they only need to pay. You divide 600 into 12 of the 12 month, and then each month you only need to pay 50. So that means they need to adjust for the monthly expenses of the insurance, which is 50 over here.
Even though they've paid all 600,
Yes, even though
but they just consider each month it's an expense of 50 over 12 months?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Dude, you're so clear when you explain this. Even I can understand. That's great.
Okay. And then the same go with depreciation. We know what, like when we have the machines type of things, and then the machine will gradually become damaged. That's why we also need to calculate the depreciation rate. Like this company, they bought something around like 5,000 for the equipment, but then they also need to calculate the depreciation rate. It means you depends on the life expectancy of that equipment, like how many years is gonna last, and then calculate they calculate the depreciation rate here, and it's actually cost around $40 for 1 month, and then they adjust in the depreciation sheet.
Okay. But this one, they've already paid it, or
already paid.
And then the depreciation, I always get confused about depreciation. So that's just because is that actual cash that they're paying, or is that just the value of the machine getting older? That's a mystery to me. Depreciation.
I think it's a like actually the the what they did, for example, they divided something for $100, but they don't actually write all of that in $100. They break it down like this machine cost, and then put it like in each month is cost how much for the machine.
So like a car is something that would be depreciated, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Oh, good. Thank you.
Yes. And this is like the unearned revenue. Is the cash received before services are performed by increasing a liability account. So this company actually like we said, they received the money but not performed. Oh no, they performed the services but not received the money yet.
Wait, they performed the services without getting the money, or they got the money without doing the services? Because up at the top there, it looks like you're saying cash received before services are performed.
Oh.
But I'm not sure.
Cash received before. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so this one is actually the opposite.
They're so confusing, aren't they?
Yeah, sometimes confusing. But yeah, the money, they receive the money first. Like, for example, for example, Georgia State want to take the teacher to maybe going some like for vacation for 3 months, something like that. They this month they have like the company need to take the teacher to somewhere else, but Georgia State will pay that company for 3 months at the beginning of the contract.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then yes, so they will receive the money first, and then here we have October 2nd, we receive 1,200 over here, but then we break it down 3 months, so each month of the cost is only 400. So at the end of October 31st, they have the revenue only 400. They need to write it over here for the adjustment.
They can't put all 1,200.
Because the total amount is for total 3 months.
Okay. So there has to be a time that's identified for that revenue, right? That revenue is going to be for 1 year or for 3 months or whatever, right? Hello? Uh-oh. Hi again. Hi. I think we lost an internet connection or
Yeah.
something. You were just telling me about the unearned revenue.
Yes. Let me share the screen again.
Great. There it is. Got it.
So yes, I mean, unearned revenue is like the revenue, like you receive the cash first before you perform something, before you selling something. So this company, they receive $1,200 for the like the prepaid of the services they need to perform in later months. So they receive it in the beginning of October, and then in October they perform only a part of that 1,200, and then they actually perform only they earn only 400 for the performance of that month. For the 800 later, then you need like to divide into in the later 2 months, maybe in November and then in December.
Right.
Yes. That's why we only write the amount when we perform something, not when you receive the cash.
And the belief there is that it's essentially 1/3 of it will be in October, the performance 1/3 will be in November, 1/3 will be in December, right?
That's where you will write the other 800.
Right. One thing to remember too, when you're talking about numbers, make sure you make it a plural for the dollars. So it's $1,200. Yeah. This is very clear. And so that actually is a liability account, right? And then over next to it, the service revenue is revenue.
Yes.
To me, that's confusing because they call it unearned service revenue, but it's a liability, right?
Yeah, because the liability and the asset, everything needs to be balanced. So they
Right.
need to get down.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, this is where the accountant knows and I don't. Okay, good. That seems very clear. Thank you.
And then we also have the accrued. Okay.
Accrued revenues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Accrued revenue is the revenues for services performed but not yet recorded at the statement date. This is where it gets confusing.
Oh my.
Wait, my computer is like, oops. Oh, I can't actually see this one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, this one will be better. Accrued revenue, the revenue service performed. This is
Oh, you got to reshare the screen. For some reason, it stopped sharing.
oh. Okay.
There it goes.
So this is the one we were talking about.
Right.
Yes, the one that like you actually perform first, and then they receive the cash payment later.
Wait, so you do the service, but you don't get paid until later.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So it's
So
kind of the opposite of the unearned
accrued,
revenue, right?
yes,
Yeah.
accrued revenue and unearned revenue. Yeah.
Okay.
I get confused over here.
It's okay.
Posting. Oh, why is it confusing to me?
Well, I think a lot of it is because there's all these different terms that are very similar.
Yes.
And it seems like there's kind of four quadrants. There's the thing where you have services
Yeah.
that you've paid for but haven't happened. Then
Mhm.
you've got revenue that you have received but you haven't done the work. And then you've got on the other side you've got the services, and you're right, it gets confusing.
Posting.
Services that you pay for. And then you have something where you've already got the service but you haven't paid for it yet. And then there's you've already done a service, you've already done the work but you haven't gotten paid for it. So the accrued is for, it's like the money's come in but none of the action has taken place, whether it's you doing the work or you receiving something, right? That's accrued. But pre-earned means, or maybe I confused that one. Because the unearned is where the money changes.
Yes, this one is clear, but
Yeah.
this one.
So this is where you've done the work, but you haven't gotten paid for it.
Yeah, and then actually we need to record it here also because we already performed the services.
Right. The service has already been performed, but
Yeah.
you haven't gotten paid.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in our program, we have some people who are on government scholarships,
Okay.
and those people, they take our classes.
Yes.
They've received the invoice, but the government, because it's the government of their country, takes a long time to pay. So that hasn't been paid yet. So it seems to me that that would be considered accrued revenue.
Yes.
Right? That we've already done the work.
Yes.
The students have gotten their classes and now they're off to the university, but we still haven't gotten paid. So we still have to then account for that during this period where the work was being done, right?
Yeah.
Because or is that revenues for services performed but not yet recorded? Yeah. Yeah, so we've already performed the service, but we haven't gotten paid, right?
Yes.
These things to me can be so confusing. Sometimes it's good, and I think they do this a lot in your book where they will give you a company. I think they use like the Sierra Company or something.
Yes.
But, I like to think about it. I'd like to put it in terms that are relevant. So like, I love pizza, so it could be a pizza company.
Yeah.
you know? So if I did a big project where I fed pizza to everyone in the IEP, but the IEP hasn't paid me yet. I've already done the work and I know that they're going to pay me, say, $1,000,
Yes.
but they're going to pay me in 2 months. And then that would be accrued revenue, I think.
Revenue first. Maybe can I like
Mm-hmm.
can we skip this one?
Yeah,
Maybe I would, yeah,
it's
research more
okay.
about this.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's still confused to me.
yeah, yeah.
Gross revenue.
Yeah, you can go to the next one if you want.
Yes.
And the good news is when you actually take the class, you'll have a professor who can explain all this.
Yes.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Because right now you're just looking at the book,
Mm-hmm.
but then when you have the class, you'll have someone who will be able to give you clear-cut examples.
Yeah.
So tell us about, now what about the accrued expenses?
So the crew expenses is just like expense incurred but not yet paid or recorded. We have some example like the taxes, the utility, or the salaries. It means like when maybe you need to pay the interest of the money that you received.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Then
like in a loan or something.
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like yeah, it's just normal. Like you borrow somebody 5,000, you calculate the annual rate and then divide it into like per month, so that you can put the expenses here. This month actually costs around $50 for your interest of this money, and then you
Okay.
record it, yes, into
Yeah.
the expense.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Nice. So those these this was some tough concepts, no?
Yes.
But I think you did a really clear job explaining the first two. These
Mm-hmm.
last two, it gets a little trickier, no?
Yes.
But hopefully some of those examples that they have in your book can help explain that. But I agree with you. To me, it seems like they seem so confusing in a way, no? Like, where is it?
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will look at the example. I'm still, I'm still
Okay.
thinking about the accrued revenue.
Well, you've done a really nice job. So, um, uh, and I really like that. And there's actually, I want to talk to you about a little bit of sort of a grammar and vocabulary component that
Yes.
actually in this unit in particular, they really did a lot of it. So is there anything any way you want to finish or sum up your presentation, or are you done?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Well, you did a very nice job.
Thank you.
Um, and now I am going to go back to share my screen with you. Okay.
Yes.
So, and then if you can see that, you can see you gave me a very good idea, a starting point for looking at what this the accrual basis is. And at the beginning, that was very clear how you made the comparison with cash. And I do work outside of my job, so I have to complete my income taxes, and I have what I like my own business kind of. And they always ask, "Are you doing this on cash or accrual?" And I never knew. I always just said cash because I'm just one person. But this is very interesting what you have shared with me. Um, so now let's see what we want to do. I want to talk to you a little bit. We talked earlier about noun phrases,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to start noticing and thinking about the way that we modify nouns. One of the things is we can use an adjective, That seems pretty straightforward, right, Thu? You know, the main reason, a well-known and reputable organization. You can also use a prepositional phrase. A lack of money is the reason for this decision. So the reason for this decision. One of the problems with the economy, all those things. You can have what they're calling here an adjective clause. And that's just where you actually have a relative clause tacked onto the end, so it adds more information to the noun. This is the reason that the committee voted no. These are problems that are happening now. All of those build to make more complex noun phrases. And one of the things you probably noticed in your reading is that accounting texts use a lot of noun phrases. And one of the most common is the very last one, which is a noun plus a noun. So in 2018, the United Nations produced a science report. So science is not really an adjective. It's another noun.
Yes.
And so we're using it like an adjective here. And then another example is learn this target word. Target is a noun, word is a noun. It is really common, and I've been seeing a lot of this in your textbook, to use these noun plus noun phrases. And you actually talked to me about quite a few of those already today. And you can have the noun phrases can be just one noun acting like an adjective, a research paper. You can also have a noun acting as an adjective for a noun, and then that noun combination is acting as an adjective for another noun. So we can talk about a history research paper. And then one of the things, what can start to become confusing, especially when you're learning new terms and you're encountering these, is you're trying to figure out, well, is this a research paper about history, or is it a paper about research, history research? You know, there can be some ambiguity about those things. The other thing is you can also have adjectives on top of the noun plus noun. So what kind of research paper? A long research paper. And it can be a long history research paper. Those things can just extend and extend and extend. And I'm afraid as you go farther into this book, you're going to find more and more of these long noun phrases. So it's important to be able to notice them, to understand exactly what they mean, and then also to use them effectively in your own writing and speaking. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do in our little chat room, and these should be very easy. I just want you to write a definition of each one of these terms. So in the chat room, we'll do number one together. A weather delay. What is that? What is a weather delay?
A delay? Is it like when you predict, maybe if you did predict the rain at 10, it happened at 12, is it?
Well, it kind of is. What really a weather delay means something was going to happen, but it has been stopped for a little while because there's bad weather. So for example, sporting events, oftentimes, if there's going to be for example, a baseball game, but then there's a lot of rain, they stop for an hour or 2 hours and then they start it. So it's a delay or a stop in time, a delay based on bad weather. So that's what that means. So now I'm going to ask you to write for me in the chat room a short definition of each one of those: a money shortage, a rice cooker, one of my favorites, an air traffic control mistake, an earthquake warning system malfunction. You can use the words that are in these terms as you make your definitions. Okay? So take a minute to do that. Hey, is it okay if we go a little late today? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, because I want to go through some more things with you. So take a minute to do that. I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to let you see my favorite bunny, Bugs Bunny. So I'll be here, and I'm going to watch until when you post them in the chat room, I'll come back. Okay?
Yes. Because these are noun, so should I also use noun in the definition?
Yeah. So you could just say a money shortage is when there is a shortage of money or when there is not enough money, something like that.
Oh,
Okay. Remember, a weather delay is when when something stops because of bad weather, something like that. Okay.
yes.
And that first one is perfect. I like that rice cooker. I like that definition of air traffic control mistake. Nice. I like that last one. I guess because but you do use the term earthquake warning system, so it does get damaged. But what is an earthquake warning system?
Is it like the system that tell you when there's an earthquake?
Yeah, a system that warns you that there's an earthquake.
Yeah.
So, and then when a system that warns you that there will be an earthquake is damaged and gives the wrong signal, that's a great definition.
Mm.
Did you notice that the number 4 and number 5 were a little bit harder to write a definition for?
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things, and if you notice number 1, how many nouns are in that noun phrase?
2.
What about number 2?
Number 2, also 2.
What about number 3?
2.
What about number 4?
4.
Yeah, there are 4 nouns that are, and 3 of them are acting as adjectives or as modifiers. And the same with number 5, there are 4 of them. And what makes it hard, and this is true for you as a reader, and also it's true for your reader when you're a writer, is that these terms, you have to do a lot more thinking about what it means, because you have to figure out, we know there's a, for number 5, we know there's a malfunction, but then we have to figure out, well, what's malfunctioning? Is it the earthquake? Is it the warning? Is it the system? You know, and then we look at system and then say, is it a warning system? Is it an earthquake warning system? And then warning, is it a warning about earthquake? You know, you have to just figure out exactly how everything is connected without having it written out for you, so that it's, you know, the way the definition is, when something malfunctions in the system that provides a warning for an earthquake. So notice all of those things, they really are clear about the relationship between these different nouns. But when we have these, just a list of nouns, it's just, you have to process it and figure that out. Sometimes too, it can be a little bit ambiguous. So I'm going to ask you to do another little thing here. Take a look at this, and this is very timely because we have voting. Did you know that early voting started yesterday here in Georgia?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you're here as an F1 student,
Yes.
so you cannot vote here, right?
Yeah, I cannot.
Oh, I'm sad because I wish you could vote. But you could vote in Vietnam, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, this is all about voting, and because, you know, we have a big election on November the 3rd.
Yes. I know that. But like early voting, what does it mean?
Early voting means it's the same as if you go the day of the election on November 3rd,
Yes.
but they started it yesterday, October 12th, and every day from now until November 3rd, or maybe until November 1st, you can go and do the same thing. You can go to the voting place and vote, and then you don't have to do it on that one day.
Oh.
Let me ask you a question. When you vote in Vietnam, is the day to vote, is it a holiday? Is it a working day?
I must tell you one thing.
What's that?
Um, in Vietnam, we do have the voting system, but actually, it's very rigged that we don't believe in the voting that much.
Oh.
And is like kind of like voting for the sake of voting. Your vote not gonna mean anything.
Oh
So
boy.
usually the general public don't care about voting.
Because they don't think that it matters, right?
They don't think that it matters at all. And then I've never voted in my life.
Oh, well, it's interesting. You know, here in the United States, usually it's less than 50% of the people vote.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not, a lot of people here don't vote. And some people, it may be the same reason, they don't trust it, they don't like it. And for a lot of people, they just don't care. They're like, well, I'm too busy.
Wow.
And also, usually when you vote here, it's a day when everyone's working. So, and people don't get a day off to vote. So someone who's working has to take time off from work to go vote, which is kind of crazy,
Yeah.
I think. Well, I want you to read this paragraph, and it tells you a little bit about electronic voting machines.
Okay.
And then I want you to find the noun plus noun phrases that are here. So take a minute to just read that.
Should I type the?
No, you can just tell me. You can
Okay.
just tell me.
So if government officials decide to use electronic voting machines, they should ensure that all voters show proper voter registration before voting and then receive paper receipts after voting. For the first one, we have government officials,
I like that.
electronic voting machines.
I'm actually going to say the voting machines. Electronic is an adjective.
Now phrase. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And even voting, I have to tell you, I put it in a different color because it's a little different. Because voting with the ing can be, it's acting like a noun, but it's also acting like an adjective.
Yes.
You know, so it's a weird kind of a combination, but very nice. Okay.
So we have the voter registration.
Oh, I like that.
And then we have the paper receipt.
Nice.
Okay. These receipts could then be collected for later verification. We don't have here.
Nope.
These paper slips could clearly state that the voters really voted for the candidates that they selected. So we have paper slips.
I like it.
Okay. And then furthermore, if any candidate suspects that an election is unfair, these receipts could be counted by hand and checked against the official results that the computers provided. We don't have any.
I agree with you.
At the very least, voting should be a simple, secure, and consistent process, regardless of the voting procedure that is being used. We don't have any.
I think the only one might be, yeah,
voting procedure.
maybe, yeah, because, and again, it's that ing thing. So we have a few of those here.
Yep.
And notice that they say, notice there's a sentence, these receipts could then be collected for later verification. That's a nice sentence. It's you know, it's got a complex idea, but it's expressed pretty well and pretty easy to understand.
Yes.
Notice that if you were to make that, turn that whole thing into a noun phrase, it could be receipt verification collections. That would become, so receipt verification collection is an important part of the process. That becomes harder to understand. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't use those, but it is a much harder way to understand. This is very clear. So when you're writing, you also want to think about whether you need to explain what something is rather than just give a series of nouns.
Okay.
Because I think it's an important part of being an effective writer is making the right choice.
Yes.
Oh, and look at what we have here. Oh, now are you getting very nostalgic? Because this is all from chapter 4. I want you to see if you can find any noun and noun phrases here.
Now phrases. You have equation analysis.
I like it. Analysis.
Credit debit.
Analysis.
Analysis.
Good.
And then we have debit credit analysis.
Nice.
Journal entry.
Yep.
Expense insurance expense.
Well, in that case,
insurance expense.
Yeah, it's just going to be, because that's actually sort of like describing the expense. Yeah. So insurance expense is definitely one.
And then we have.
Are there any others? I don't know. Are there?
Debit increase expenses? No. No.
That may be it, actually. Oops, it was it. Let me go back. Sorry. That was the last one. Okay, yeah. So yeah, just those 4. Now, notice that these phrases, when you are writing about things in your field, you have to make a decision whether something is so clear and so commonly used in your field that you don't have to describe what it means. So you can just say equation analysis, and you say, well, everyone knows that, or at least the people I'm writing to. Or you may decide, you know what, I want to use that phrase because I see it being used in my textbook. But I also want to be able to, when I first mention it, I'm going to define it. So you can say an analysis or an equation. When we analyze the equation for these things, something like that. And then you can go to equation analysis. So really you have three choices as a writer when you're looking at these kinds of concepts. The first is to not use the noun plus noun phrase, just describe what's going. We are analyzing the debit to credit ratio or something, right? Or you can decide, I'm going to define it once, but then after that, I can use this phrase that is being used in the book. And the third option is, this is so obvious to my reader, whether it's a professor or someone else in accounting, that I'm just going to use it exactly the way it is here. I'm not going to bother. I know this is like a regular vocabulary word. So, you don't have to say insurance expense means it's an expense related to insurance. You say, now, people got that. They know that one. And then one of the things to consider is when you see things that are longer noun phrases like that, it's more likely that you may want to define them or explain them a little more. But again, it depends on each thing that you're looking at. And let's see what, and there we have. Now let's just take a look here and tell me what noun plus noun phrases you see.
Oh, revenue accounts.
Yeah.
Expense accounts.
Oh, yeah.
Income summary.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's it, right? Yeah. Yeah, because the other ones are adjectives and dividends has nothing. So those might be things that you would say, you know what? I'm just going to use them just the way they are, because that is a term that people in accounting know and use, right?
Yes.
And let's see here. Oh, you know what? I wanted to talk with you about Groupons. Let me see how we're doing with time.
Yes.
Can you stay a little bit longer? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. First of all, this is from your chapter. Do you remember this thing? Did you look at that? I know sometimes it's easy to jump over these little boxes that they have.
I read this one.
Oh, good. So you know this one, right?
Yes.
So tell me first, what is Groupon?
Groupon is like the company that they sell
coupons, yeah.
Yeah, coupon to the other, like to the customer. So they said something like, it's very hard for them to do to state their statement, because at the end of the month, when they sell to the customer, they also need to return the money to the company. Yes.
Yeah, it seems very complicated, right?
Yes.
From an accounting perspective. Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever used Groupon?
No.
Oh, I used it, but you know what I discovered? I used it maybe like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, something like that. Mm-hmm. But one of the things is that when you buy the Groupon, like you can get a great deal, but it's only good for a certain amount of time, yes. And then it stops.
Yes.
So, and I would buy them thinking, oh, I'm going to use this. And then I would forget about it, which I think they love. I mean, I think it makes the accounting crazy, but I think they love that because they're getting extra money, right?
Yes.
What do you think about this idea of Groupons? Do you think it's a good idea? Would you use it? I mean, do you think it's a good idea for consumers?
Yes, but only when we use when we use something continuously. It's just not.
Yeah, so it can be a good thing for consumers, right? It can be. Yes. And I think they're still going. They haven't gone out of business, have they? I think they're still working. Now, so tell me again, so the question here was, keeping track of Groupons was all about that accrued versus unearned and all that, right?
Yeah.
And that they had they were worth a lot of money, $16 billion after 3 years, right?
Yes, that is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'd like that.
Mhm.
And then, but then they had to do a restatement, right?
Mm.
Because they discovered that their accounting processes were, I don't know if they were wrong or they weren't really in accordance with what they should be doing, right?
Mhm.
So, um, so they had to make an adjustment, right?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to see if you can complete this sentence for me.
Mhm.
If Groupon records revenue for 100% of each sale, what happens?
Groupon records revenue for 100% of its sales.
And remember, that's what they were doing at the beginning.
Mhm.
So you can just, maybe you can see, are they going to have a higher listed value or a lower listed value? How would you finish that sentence?
Revenue 100% of each sales.
Because remember, they said they ended up having to go like to 50% rather, something. Maybe, are you writing it? Or are you going to say it?
Let me
I'll
say.
let you think. I'll be quiet.
Okay. Mhm. Mhm. Uh, so the annual revenue will be higher.
Okay, so if Groupon records revenue for 100% of each sale,
Mhm.
annual revenue will be higher, correct?
Mhm.
Nice. So let me ask you this. If Groupon had recorded revenue for 50% of each sale in its first 3 years,
Mhm.
how do you finish that sentence? And remember, what really happened was Groupon recorded revenue for 100% of each sale in the first 3 years.
Yeah.
But tell me about the situation if Groupon had recorded revenue for 50% of each sale in its first 3 years.
Mhm. So their annual revenue would have been reduced.
Nice. Perfect. So it would have been reduced. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. And now, so I really like the way you're able to do that because I think in accounting, there's probably a lot of that where you have to go back in time
Mhm.
and say what would have happened if something else had happened, right?
Yes.
And that's when the people are about to go to jail. And they say, if you had done this, you would not have gone to jail.
Mm.
So now, and then the last thing I want to do with you today, I just want you to find 5 noun plus noun phrases here in this little reading.
Yes. Number one will be accounting regulators.
Uh-oh, where's that one?
This in the second paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I agree with you. Accounting regulators. Yeah. And I wasn't really counting the ing, but I agree with you. I think accounting regulators. Yep.
Mm.
I don't have it highlighted, so I'm gonna let you keep going.
Okay.
See, you're better than I am. Nicely done.
we have loyalty programs.
I like loyalty programs. Where is that? Is that in the second column?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Take a look at the third paragraph where it says, first consider what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget to look at the names of the companies too.
Oh, I was confused about the high-rise hamburgers.
Yeah. Yeah, high-rise hamburgers. I know it's a before that, but it goes over 2 lines. Yeah. And that's kind of a weird one. And then there's one more below that in the third paragraph.
I can't find it.
Let me show you this one, the SEC ruling. Because the SEC is the, what is it, Stocks and Exchange Commission, something like that. So SEC is a noun and ruling is a noun.
Okay.
I know that one's a little tricky.
Yes.
And then I think you said the loyalty programs, right?
Yes.
And there might be one more, 2 more. They're towards the end. In the last paragraph.
Income taxes.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Customer refunds.
Nice. Perfect. Good. So notice here, this is they're telling a story here about Groupon. And notice there are very few of these noun plus noun phrases. And part of that, when you reduce the number of noun plus noun, especially noun plus noun plus noun, or noun plus noun plus noun plus noun, when you reduce those, it's much easier for people to read, because then it's very clear to see who's doing what. You know, this leads to this. The noun plus noun plus noun plus noun is a very efficient way to put information in, but it's also very hard for the brain to process. So that's just something for you to think about. And now I want to just talk to you about your homework. Chapters, quiz on the sublist 6 of the academic word list. I'm going to try very quickly to pull together a little quiz for you about the chapter 2 and chapter 3 vocabulary that you shared with me. And then also, if you can create an Excel sheet with those key terms, something tells me it's going to have the word accrual in it.
Yes.
For chapter 4. I want to ask you another question. Is it possible starting next week to meet on Thursday instead of Tuesday?
It's okay.
Oh, you are the best. You are the best. So we'll meet, and I want to make it go a little bit longer. So we'll go from 11 to 12:15.
Yes.
Which actually is, we're pretty close to that now, actually. So, and then I will get back for you the, I will give you feedback on what you wrote for this week as well. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any questions or thoughts before we break?
Oh, okay. It's no problem. Yeah, but just that I will look back on chapter 4 and then I will explain better the accrual revenue for you next time.
Okay, that's a deal. All right, great. So I'll send you a new invitation for the Thursday meeting starting next week.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you did a wonderful job. You are wonderful.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Have a good week to you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.